Org. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Brian Doben, photographer and storyteller. Please enjoy Brian Doben. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. Today I'm chatting with Brian Doben, photographer, and I guarantee you so much more. So welcome to the show.
Good morning, Mari. How are you?
I'm well, thanks, Brian. How are you?
I am excited. I'm very excited. A little nervous, to be honest. Hope that I can get my point across. But really excited to be here and share my journey.
Wonderful. Well, I am excited to hear all about how you got into the work that you do and what it means to you and how creativity shows up. But before we get there, why don't you take a couple of minutes and let our listeners know a little bit more about who you are and what it is you do?
Well, I am a commercial photographer. I have been a professional for 27 years now,
Wow.
which is kind of blows my mind. And it's been on just an amazing journey throughout it all, and very fortunate for the experiences I've had, to be honest. I never thought that photography was going to be in my future. I wanted to be a professional cyclist when I was young, and it just one thing led to another, and I just became obsessed with telling stories and capturing moments.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's been an interesting. People always ask, if I started out what art form, and they want to they think it's more the traditional. And honestly, it was one day just picking up a camera
Oh,
and just following an idea, and it just kind of was just all encompassing.
amazing. Is there formal training in this, or is this truly instinct and intuition?
It's there's formal training. I come from a family that you have to go to college,
Okay.
which was a good thing for me. Unfortunately, I was not able to get into any college actually,
Mm,
because all I wanted to do was race my bike,
mhm.
even to the detriment of my grades. Even going as far as on the day of my SATs, wearing my cycling kit into the room with my bicycle, getting through the test as quick as possible to get back out and train.
Wow.
So because of that, my grades, my SAT scores were so low that the only way to get into a school was through a school called SUNY Purchase, which is a
Mm,
state university in New York, at
mhm.
Purchase, and they have a program. Which I believe they still have, called EOP, Educational Opportunity Program. My mother fought for me to get into that program, and so it began the journey of finding my truth in my life.
I love it. I mean, yeah, I can relate to being very devoted to something that gets in the way of all other things.
Y- Yeah, yeah, and to this day, I still ride when I'm not working or with my
Hmm.
family. And I think for me, cycling has always been my guiding force, as
Mm,
well as and I can get into that later, things that have happened because of cycling. But
mm,
the most important thing for me is self-trust,
mm.
and knowing that there's nothing I can't do if I just put in the time. And so
Nice.
that was something that I was able to kind of immediately leverage right into darkroom work, and
Yeah,
just learning something that I never was allowing myself to be open to.
I love that. Well, when you think of creativity and being creative, what does it mean to you to be creative?
It's letting go of control, trusting myself, trusting my surroundings, allowing for it to get messy if it needs to be,
Mm.
um, and just knowing that there's no wrong. I think that's the thing that we struggle with throughout our entire life because we're told from toddler on, no, no, no. There's fear-based reaction. And to be in a state, what I call a flow state, where
Mhm.
you're just being, is where it's just the most magnificent experience to be in that environment because you are just allowing for things to come through you rather than
Mhm.
fighting all the things
Mhm.
around you.
Yeah. You've said this a few times, trusting yourself.
Yeah.
Where did you learn that? Because that isn't something many people kind of innately have, or they do, but there's that second guessing. So how does trusting yourself show up in your life? And how did you get to this point?
I mean, it's a great question, and my mother will love the answer to this. My mother really, truthfully, from the moment I could remember, told me I could fly. There's nothing I
Mm,
couldn't do, as long as I was having fun. Having
mm,
fun was the most important thing. If I wasn't smiling, it wasn't worth doing,
mhm.
especially when I was young, right? When
Yeah.
you're just exploring yourself and open to the world, everything should be enjoyable. Later on in life, things become a job, we'll say,
Hmm.
but it's about really just having fun. So I was never raised in a household, or I just wasn't raised in a household of things where I couldn't do.
Mm,
And so she allowed me to explore cycling. She supported it fully, and I did pretty well with it. But I never had the just honestly the genetics, the DNA to become a professional. That's just
mm,
wasn't in my cards. And
yeah.
so what I needed to do was find something else. And like I said, it was just an idea. It was a rainy day, and I just thought I want to go out and take a photograph.
Mm,
And that's what I did, and that's where it started. But it was really an unconscious, completely just happening situation.
mm. That's amazing. And how old were you on that rainy day when you had that urge to go take a photograph?
I believe I would say either 17 or 18 years old. I was just in
Oh, okay.
college. So I was a freshman.
Yeah.
And I just, yeah, I have the photograph sitting right next to me at my desk,
Hmm.
and I look at it all the time.
I
And
love that.
I love it. It's just, it reminds me of just innocence
Ah,
and self-discovery.
mm-hmm.
Um, and it's just again, it's a reminder that you can do anything you want.
Mm,
The level of success is not the measure that matters. It's not a monetary or trophies or
mm-hmm.
accolades. It's within yourself.
Mm.
That's absolutely the most important thing that I have found.
Yeah. That's so beautiful that it that is the internal process and experience is so much more valuable than the product or the external accolades.
Yeah, and we can get into that with my book, but for myself, find photographs to be or art, and art doesn't necessarily mean pottery or painting. Art can be within anything.
Hmm.
It's speaking your or interpreting the situation into something that you can say is your truth. I know I keep
Mm.
repeating that, but I think that's a
Hmm.
real it's a driving force for me is that it doesn't make it right, it doesn't make
Hmm.
it better, it just makes it yours.
That's so
And
great.
yeah, and not everyone's going to appreciate it, and that's okay. That's something that you have to accept.
Right. That comes back to the trusting yourself. It's not about trusting the, other people are allowed to have their opinions, the subjectivity of art and experience, and you trusting yourself that what you're doing is fulfilling and fueling and bringing you joy is
Hmm.
the more important piece. But I'm curious when it comes to this photography journey that you've been on, what are some of the challenges that you've had to face, and how did you use your own creativity to navigate them?
Well, when I first started in photography, I assisted, and I went to school for photography. I ended up leaving the state school and went to a private university
Mhm.
to get my final degree. Um, and I went out and assisted, and I really loved assisting. I loved learning in real
Mhm.
life experience. I come from an environment, Brooklyn, New York, in the '70s, where you're outside barefoot, getting glass in your feet, you're playing stickball, you're out there, and it's people always ask what it was like, and I said it's literally like the movies. Open a
Mhm.
movie and you'll see the story of New York. And so I grew up kind of in that grit, and so for me to go back into that in a sense with the assisting was, I loved every moment of it. And I started to learn the have and have nots, the what you do, what you don't do on set, etc.
Mhm.
And then I fortunately was able to start with some small magazines that believed in my photography, and they gave me opportunities, and it really happened pretty quick actually for me, where I won an award at the time. There was a magazine called PDN, Photo District News, and I think it was the first or second year that they did this. I guess it was a competition called 30 Under 30. It was the 30 most influential photographers under the age of 30, and I was put in there. I didn't even Someone put me in. I don't do those things because they make me nervous, because
Yeah.
I don't want to win or lose. I just
Mm.
want to be.
Mhm.
So I did it, and then Kodak actually, I won an award for emerging photographer of the year, and that really catapulted me
Mm.
from a small agent to a very large agent that I'm still
Mhm.
with.
Mm.
And my career kind of just started. And I went from kind of taking local roads to the highway pretty quick.
Wow.
And I noticed 10 years into it, doing travel, then celebrity, and then fashion, that I was not in control of my own destiny. It became a machine where I was
Mhm.
just stamping out a product. I
Yeah.
was fulfilling needs without putting myself into it, because I didn't know where I belonged, because it
Mm.
happened so quick.
Mhm.
Um, and I was on a project in Nashville, where I was photographing a country artist. I spent a lot of time in Nashville for a period, and my wife called afterwards and was so curious how the shoot went, and I said it was fine, and she said, "Yeah, but I need to know, like, was it okay?" And I said the shoot was fine. It was a Keith Urban shoot.
Mm.
He's a great guy, super professional. You can't go wrong with someone like him, right?
Mhm.
They're collaborative. They don't fight you. There's no games. And she was like, "What's wrong?" And I said, I'm not enjoying this anymore. I'm not having
Mm.
fun."
Yeah.
Going back to my mom. And I said, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore.
Mm.
And I took a moment and I had this list. I wish I kept it,
Mm.
but I wrote a list before I called her with all these ideas of other careers. And every
Mhm.
single one, she said, "No, that's not you." We had just had a little girl, so that was another pressure, right? We had a little baby.
Sure. Yeah.
We're not starting over here.
Uh-huh.
You're gonna have to dig deep into yourself and put on your big boy pants. And so she said, because we had met in college, and she had said, "Why don't you just go back out there and do some photography that you want to do? Go back with your
Mm.
camera,
Mhm.
meet some people, no crew, no big to do, and just go to where you began. Start
Mm.
over."
Yeah.
As I put it in my mind, go cut an album that no one knows you're doing, right?
Mm.
Go,
Yeah.
it's like, go back in the studio and no one has to know. So there's no pressure,
Right.
and
This
just start
one's for
strumming.
you.
This one's for me.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a really great way to put it. And
Mhm.
so I went out, and I met this woman who had a taco truck and had just gotten a restaurant, and it's called Moss Taco in Nashville. Um, and we just started talking,
Mm.
and we had this great conversation about her journey. And then I started talking about my journey. And next thing you know, we're laughing and eating tacos, which were wonderful, and having a great time sitting in her food truck,
Mm.
just talking and laughing. And I went back to my hotel room that night, and I started looking at the images, and I realized there's something here.
Mm.
There's some real truth here because, again, it doesn't matter what other people think about it, but I'm starting to see myself again. I'm
Yeah.
starting to see something come back alive.
Mm.
And, 13 years later, over, I don't know, six or 700 shoots around the world, I now have a book about
Yeah.
it. I became I went all in as I typically do. And I
Mhm.
wanted to meet people and hear their stories and share my stories as well,
Mm.
because it's my journey.
Mm-hmm.
And really just, I believe it, you know, of all the shoots, I think I have, best friends all around the world in a sense. We don't communicate, but we spoke to each other in such an honest way with the time we had together
Yeah.
that I'm so grateful
Mm.
for those experiences.
That's amazing. I have briefly seen the book, but I now want to look at it more in depth and see all these pieces. So tell us a little bit more. How did this book come about? Is this your first book? What is it called? Tell us all about it.
All right. Well, I'm not good at plugging myself. The book is called At Work,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it's my journey through the past 13 years, meeting people who love what they do.
Mm.
And there's some stories intermixed within the book. For me, it's a scrapbook.
Mm.
It's my uh, I get very emotional, but it's my love story to my daughter.
Mm. That's
It's
beautiful.
it's um it's reminding her it's reminding her that she can fly, that she can
Yeah.
do anything she wants.
Mm.
And I really hope for everybody that um looks at it,
Yeah.
that they could feel that energy, because what
Mm.
I've learned through this journey is we all have dreams, we all have aspirations,
Yeah.
we all have hopes and wants,
Mm.
and it's so important to live that
Yeah.
because we only have one chance. It's about being around people who can refill your bucket, your um, soul, because that's what it did for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just about sharing your stories
Mm.
and realizing that you're not alone on this journey.
Yeah. Mm.
It's a scary thing to grow up. It's a scary thing
Sure.
to find your way in the world. But if you could do it truthfully, if you could do it with something you love to do, and it just makes it that much easier.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
as you're talking, I'm so reminded of just the concept of self-compassion and the common humanity that is a part of it and being really present in the moment and just loving what you do and the honesty and truth that it sounds like you bring from yourself to these other people, which allows them to show up in the same way. I mean, what a gift. Not everyone gets
yeah.
that.
I mean, I think that's very true. I think that the energy you put out, you can get back. And
Mhm.
um, I'm very raw. I'm very much just who I am. I share everything with people, not expecting return. It's my own therapy as well.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's also a way to drop the guard pretty quick.
Yeah.
I very soon into the outwork process, got in a very bad cycling accident where I was
Mm.
attacked by someone in a car,
Oh,
and I
geez.
was hurt really bad, and I had a traumatic brain injury. I had no use of my hands.
Oh, wow.
I forgot I had a daughter,
Mm.
and I had to kind of start over in a sense, not literally, thankfully, but I
Hmm.
had to kind of reteach myself a lot of things that
Yeah.
quickly came back. But within that, I'll kind of give a story that I'm sure you'll want to edit, which is fine. So I did the phone a friend. I never do that. I never really play off of my celebrity
Hmm.
connections. Um, and I reached out to his management, so I wasn't gonna call him directly about it. And with
Hmm.
the next day, I saw the head neurologist at Brigham and Women's
Wow.
before he started. So this doctor came in before he started his rounds just to meet with me.
Hmm.
And he looked at my imaging of my brain, and he's a wonderful man. And he said, the fact that you're alive is like walking out of an airplane. It's
Wow.
possible. People do survive, plane crashes.
Yeah.
He said, the fact that you're not breathing out of a tube, he goes, I can't even calculate.
Wow.
It doesn't factor looking at this image. And at the time, I was taking anti-anxiety medicine because I had had, I guess, PTSD, which is something, again, I thought that's for soldiers. I didn't think that we can have those things.
Yeah.
And he said, you need to get off of that medicine. And he said, there's a miracle occurring, and you need to accept the pain,
Hmm.
physical and emotional. And
Mm.
you need to tell and share that story with others. He
Wow.
said, that is what's going to save you.
Hmm.
And so that's what I did. I took it to heart. I didn't, I mean, I really had to fight hard to come back. And I
Mm-hmm.
listened to people I trusted, and he gave me that tool. So the first shoot I did after the accident, and after I was there, I mean, my mouth was closed. I couldn't open my mouth. It took
Mm-hmm.
months of therapies to
Yeah.
get myself moving. I went to New York. I went to Harlem to photograph a woman at a community garden. I
Hmm.
wanted to kind of see in a safe environment how I would be, because I was
Yeah.
slurring my words. I still, to this day, when I'm tired, I it's hard to find words sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
but I was really kind of like putting myself back out there to see what it would be like.
Yeah.
The woman I was supposed to meet didn't show up for some
Ah.
reason or another, but someone else did.
Ah.
And this woman and I started talking about childhood. She
Mm.
grew up in New York in a rough family environment and moved to Vermont. Then she
Mm-hmm.
ran away. Now she's back living in Harlem in this community garden. And
Mm.
for her, it's a full circle. It reminds her of her time in Vermont, and et cetera,
Mm-hmm.
et cetera. I shared about my journey as a child growing up in Brooklyn, from a refugee mother from World War II, all of that, plus my accident. I started to kind of
Mm.
just, and she then kept going deeper and deeper into her pain and suffering. And
Mm.
we're photographing, we're crying, we're talking, we're laughing, we're doing the whole thing. Well, at the end of each session, I always have the subject sign a release, because maybe I'll make a book one day.
Yeah.
Someone gave me that advice. You should get releases. At first, I didn't. I didn't think it was just in the beginning, it was just something.
Yeah.
So I had her sign a release, and I walked away, and I'm getting into a taxi, and I look at the release, and it says, um, Grimalda Shabazz. And I thought,
Mm.
Shabazz, that's really familiar. And I looked up, and I saw that I was sitting or waiting. This is before I got into the taxi. I was waiting on Malcolm X Boulevard. So I thought,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, that's, just maybe she just wrote that to kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
confuse me. I didn't know what her intention was. It was Malcolm X's daughter.
Amazing.
And what didn't matter was who she was.
Yeah.
What mattered was, or it didn't matter who she was, what her family was, the history of her. There's so many stories, about her. What
Mm.
mattered was the woman that I met
Yeah.
and the conversation we had. And
Mm.
it really filled my soul with everything I needed at that moment
Mm-hmm.
to fight the fight more with coming through what I was
Mm-hmm.
going through, but also to continue being more and more honest, because what can
Mm.
come of it is just, you don't know. And
Yeah.
that's the beauty. And within that, taking some photographs, right? So
Yeah.
it's like it's not one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
um and because of that, I kept that process going through all my years, and just
Mm.
the stories just kept building and building and building.
Mm-hmm.
And the honesty and the truth really started to come out from a lot of people that never really had the space to do that. They
Mm.
weren't given that safe environment to just talk.
Yeah.
And the photographs for me became deeper and deeper, because they
Mm-hmm.
became more about the person, the
Mm.
true person, not what they make. Yeah, what
Yeah.
they make is nice, and that's in the photograph, but I'm not here for that.
Yeah.
I'm here for you, to
Mm.
celebrate you as a person.
Oh,
And that's really been
that's a beautiful
what
thing.
I've done.
So we don't get that. We don't get to be celebrated and as people and who we are, as opposed to
Exactly.
what we do and produce. And that
Exactly.
is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. And so now when I take that to my commercial, because I still have to make a living,
Mhm.
um, it's given me so much more of a voice
Mm,
for what I'm doing. It gives
yeah.
me a point of view.
Hmm.
Um, it's given me, or I've had opportunities because of great clients
Yeah.
to be truthful within the imagery
Mm,
and not sell products, but tell the stories of the
yeah.
people.
Mm.
Um, and so it's a never-ending fulfillment.
Oh,
You know, it's hard to know that this book is here now because is the chapter closed or is it just
oh,
part one? I don't
yeah.
know, you know.
Okay. I
Yeah.
love that though, that
Yeah.
it is unknown. And I think that's the beauty of creativity. It's not about the end, it's about the journey. And
It's a yes.
yeah,
It's never the destination, right? It's the
yeah.
journey along the way. And most people don't understand that or they fight that. And I understand why. There's
Hmm.
a million reasons.
Yeah.
But I think you and I feel the same way that when we can be present in ourselves, we can
Hmm.
realize that this is part of the journey. This is not defining us at this moment. Even if we
Absolutely.
even if we decide that we can't do it, that doesn't make it failure.
Right. Yeah. I agree. It is all about the learning and how we take what some may call failure and turn it into something else.
Exactly.
Yeah. So for
Yeah.
people who are just kind of maybe starting out in photography or trying to find their voice in this medium, how would you encourage them to find their own creativity?
To look within, to be
Mm.
honest with yourself as to what you enjoy photographing. I
Hmm.
There's more than enough photographers on this earth.
Hmm.
There's more than enough photographs here.
Hmm.
It's overwhelming and daunting sometimes to see what's happening around because you feel like, well, I can't go do that because it's been done before.
Mm.
But the truth is you haven't done it.
Yeah.
And so you need to do it. So you know, I gave a class once at a school, a talk, and let me rephrase that. I gave a talk in a class at a photography school, and
Uh-huh.
we talked about something, and I said, why don't we do this as a project? Everyone go out and photograph the same tree.
Mm.
And the first thing everyone said was, well, it's going to look like you know, they're looking around, they're saying, what's going to look like so and so's photo. I said, it doesn't matter. I didn't tell you how to take it. I didn't tell you
Right.
if it has to be in focus or out of focus. It doesn't, it could be daytime, it could be nighttime, it could be whatever you want it to be. But
Hmm.
the tree is your subject.
Mm.
And and I think there's something to be said for that, where you have to let go of the someone else did it.
Right.
Because that's not what matters. What matters is you haven't done it yet.
Hmm.
And so I think if I believe is if you feel strongly enough that photography is what you want to do or explore, just go out in the world and try things. See
Mm.
what feels right. It's the same, it would be the same thing as I don't know if I like spicy food. Try it. You might
Yeah.
like it. You might not like that spice. You might like this spice. You don't know. You might like still life. You might like landscape. You might love
Hmm.
to interact with people.
Yeah.
There's a million and one different ways of going about it.
That's amazing and such great advice. And I love that exercise of everyone taking a picture of the same subject, whatever that is, and they'll all be different. That's like just enough
Yeah,
creativity to, or creative instruction to allow your own creativity to emerge. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I had this fantastic photography. My first photography professor at SUNY Purchase, he said to the class, "I want you to be visual." And everyone
Mm.
raised their hand and said, "Wait, I think you mean visual, right?" He goes, "Well, that's the problem. I want you to be visual." And he was this trippy guy. His name is John Cohen, and he was actually friends with the Grateful Dead. So you can only imagine the things he partook
Yeah.
in. You know, riding that train high on cocaine was written about him.
Oh my
Is the
gosh.
story he told.
Huh.
And he's just this trippy beatnik guy. I have his photography book, but he didn't care if a photograph had scratches or dust or
Yeah.
out of focus. If that's what your intention was, that's
Mm,
what mattered. And that instilled within me forever that there's no rules. You do need to understand the rules,
yeah.
and then you can let go of them to
Right.
find what works for you.
Mm,
But you don't have to do it the same way as someone else.
mm-hmm. I love
Um,
that.
yeah, yeah, it was so cool. It was like,
That,
just be visual. And so it was such a freeing, grades didn't matter. He would say, what do you think you deserve? And people became honest about it because
yeah.
they realized they weren't living up to their own expectations. And a lot
Mm,
of times people were giving themselves poorer grades than they deserved,
mm-hmm.
because that's the next thing we do. We're so hard on ourselves. We're so
Right.
critical.
Yeah.
We're not kind. We don't allow for the mistakes. We don't allow for the imperfections.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what life is. It's imperfect.
Mm. Oh my gosh, we could talk for hours just about that. But this has
Yeah, I
been
mean,
such a treat getting to chat with you. I just have one last question.
sure.
What does it feel like in your body to be creative?
To be alive, it's being
Mm,
alive. It's
mm,
truthfully, it's being alive. It's being it's flying. It's
mm,
truly, it's flying.
I love it. Thank you
It's
so much, Brian, for taking the time to chat with me. If people want to learn about your book, your work out in the world, how could they go about doing that?
well, I have a few different websites, or I have two websites. I have briandoben.com.
Okay.
That's going to have more my commercial side and a sampling of the Outwork project.
Mm-hmm.
There's a link within that, uh, and or you can go to atworkproject.com, project at atworkproject.com, and that would just be the entire catalog of images.
Oh,
um, those are the two websites, and then the book will be out on June 3rd, which is actually my wife's birthday. And that is called At Work, Brian Doben, myself.
I love it.
And that is available from Trope Publishing, as well as Amazon, and hopefully some local bookstores.
Wonderful. Well, I will put all those links in show notes so people have easy access. And thank you again so much for taking the time to chat with me. It has been such a treat.
Thank you so much, Mari. I've been really excited about this and nervous, but you made it quite easy. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.